If you enjoy our podcast, please like and subscribe and consider becoming a digital subscriber to the Albuquerque Journal to help us bring you more content like this. You can find this episode and all of our podcasts on the Albuquerque Journal website, abqjournal.com, as well as YouTube, iTunes, and Spotify. See the show notes for a discount code on a digital subscription. Thank you for supporting the Albuquerque Journal, New Mexico's leading news.
Hello and welcome to another episode of What's Bugging You. I'm your host, Chesley Elkins, here with my co-host.
I'm Brian Victor, and as always, we have a special guest today, but first we would like to hear a word from our sponsors.
Preventive Pest Control, taking care of the pests you see and the ones you don't see. Preventive Pest Control. It's as simple as that.
We're lucky to have Mr. Mike Swanson again. He's our associate certified entomologist. He has a bachelor's degree in biology, so he's very knowledgeable. I guess you introduce yourself a little more.
Yeah, work for Preventive Pest Control in the commercial department and do a lot of the training.
And this is you're becoming a regular on here on the show.
Yeah, I think I'm getting. I get a chair with my name on it, I think.
Right. Well, today we'd like to answer some of the questions we've got from some people. Call this our mailbags, not a literal mailbag, usually a digital sort of thing. But we've got some questions that have come up. This is time of year we start getting a lot of bugs coming out, and try and tackle some of these questions that people have.
Yes.
Yeah, the first one goes quite a lot. We actually had a training on this with our company on Friday. How do you keep the bees off the bushes by my front door? I'm afraid they'll sting the kids.
Ooh, that's a tricky one. Maybe you can't, because a lot of people, we'll get questions like this too from businesses and from homes. People say, "Hey, why don't you go spray that bush because we keep getting bees on it?" And a lot of people don't realize that is absolutely against the law. I mean, there's a federal Pollinator Protection Act that specifically prohibits you from spraying for foraging bees. I think the best thing to do is just to talk to people and educate them about the reality of bee behavior. One, when they're foraging, they're not at all defensive, and you can walk right through that bush, and you're not going to get stung. People get stung when they're messing with hives, and if they're actively trying to squash a bee, it will probably defensively sting. But if they're just flying around and you're walking by, the chance of you getting stung is very low. So I would say just maybe read up on the importance of bees and the importance in our ecosystem and for our food supply, but also understand that they don't pose the danger that some people and a lot of people are allergic, and that does pose a health risk. And so I understand that kind of fear that's founded for many people, but bees are not aggressive, and Africanized honeybees, especially in New Mexico, are pretty rare. So
if you do find have an actual colony, a beehive or something, there's something you can do about it. You can either have a beekeeper come remove it for you, or if it is damaging your structure or something, then there's something we can do to treat it. But just foraging bees, you see, it's a good thing. It means you have some pretty flowers in your yard, and let them be, right?
Just let them be bees.
Yeah. Excellent. Another question here. What are the little black beetles on the ground in my pantry?
Well, it could be a few things, I guess. I mean, there's a lot of beetles, 500,000 or so, at least, species that we know about. But if it's in a pantry, it's probably going to be like a carpet beetle, a domestic beetle, or it's going to be maybe a sawtooth grain beetle, or maybe one of another few species. But I guess really the difference doesn't matter, because if they're in there, their larvae are probably eating your granola bars or your Chex Mix or something, and you just got to start going through your food and seeing if there's evidence of something chewing on it and just put in a bag and throw it away, vacuum them up. Really, we don't recommend people use pesticides in the pantry for pantry pests like that, because it's really just about seeking out the source that the larvae are feeding on and getting rid of that, and that generally gets rid of the problem. And you can call a pest control company to help you do identification and figure out what's going on, and that's probably a good idea.
And this next question is kind of a crapshoot, I guess, for the answer, because I guess you never know. But this probably hits relatively close to home for you because you're in the commercial division and you deal with a lot. Is, will the moths be bad this summer?
For those of you who are listening and not watching, I'm trying to channel the future. I'm going to say yes.
Why is that? Just a guess?
I can smell them coming. I don't know. Yeah, we don't know, right? There's so many environmental triggers that could be responsible for there being a large number of moths. It's anybody who spent any time in New Mexico knows that some summers we just get clouds of millions of billions of moths coming by, and they get in your car and in your house and people's hair, and they start freaking out about it. But can we predict when they're going to be there? I can't. I don't understand. If there's something that we could look at in the spring or the winter before that would be a trigger, then maybe we could make some money accurately projecting that.
The Farmer's Almanac.
Yeah,
does that have
I think
that?
there is a moth section in the almanac.
There probably is.
Yeah. What do you think?
I would say probably not this year. It's
Okay.
been, I think the weather's just been really unpredictable and weird this year. I would, my best guess, but probably as good as anybody else's.
It was a pretty dry winter.
That's true.
So I wonder if that has something to do with maybe they're not
we keep having these late winter start and stop things going on.
Well, I'm going to say no
right.
because I don't want them. So I'm going to say no. But I did see, though, that it snowed a ton on Saturday. It was April, what is that, April, I don't know what the date was. And then on Sunday, I was driving to my kids' practice, and there was termite swarmers everywhere, all over the place. So that's kind of a normal thing, right? And
Yep,
so I guess
excuse me.
that's our next question, I guess, is what are these termite swarms, I guess, we're seeing now, I guess?
Yeah, so that's something you generally see it in the spring and in the fall. Like March and October are usually the time you see it, but really it can vary. But it's, as far as we know, it's triggered by a day of precipitation where the ground gets a good soak, and then the following day, if it's sunny and warmer, that's usually a key environmental trigger. And you'll see, and there are other parts we don't see it as bad, but there are other parts of the country where it just looks like shimmering clouds, across the horizon of just all the termite swarmers emerging out of the ground and looking for, opportunities to mate.
Right. Yeah, so usually we'll see those around Valentine's Day. It's kind of interesting to see them again this time of year. But that's awesome. This next question: what bugs are you afraid of? I guess this could be an individual thing, not a definitive answer.
Mosquitoes.
Mosquitoes you're
I
afraid
think
of?
if I'm being pragmatic, I would say mosquitoes because they have the highest potential to cause damage to people by introducing, vectors. And as the climate changes and we start to see these mosquitoes that are normally associated with more southern latitudes, seeing them up here, that's kind of scary. But if I'm being emotional, I would probably say centipedes. They freak me out.
So would you rather get stung by a mosquito or a assassin bug there?
Ooh, mosquito. Well, shoot, that's a tough one.
Wheel bug.
Because a mosquito could kill me.
Yeah.
And the wheel bug would just hurt a lot.
Yeah.
Dang. Yeah, I don't know. I'll roll the dice with mosquito.
Yeah, I think I would.
Same here.
Me too.
I've had so many mosquito bites, and I'm still here. So
It's kind of interesting. I used to be pretty scared of spiders for a long time. Usually, like something that I can't really see, but I can feel will always creep me out a little bit. Like if I feel something
Like
crawling
love.
on me and I can't see see what it is, freaks me out. Actually, when I was a kid, I used to play with tarantulas all the time. If I could see it and hold it, and that didn't bother me. But and over time, I think other spiders don't bother me as much anymore. But if there's something crawling on me and I can't see what it is, I'll just lose it.
yeah. I was actually in years and years ago before I started in pest control. I had a job as a subcontractor for satellite TV, and so I had to spend a lot of time crawling underneath trailer homes and inside attics and things like that. And I was always a big arachnophobe growing up. And then I think it was that aversion therapy of like I got to make money, so I'm going underneath this trailer, and you come out and you're like flicking the spiders off your shoulder and everything. And I just kind of got used to it, I think. And then, you get into this field and, learn more about the anatomy and the biology and behavior of these animals, and you realize they pose zero danger to you. And I think just understanding that helps. Speaking about that wheel bug and mosquitoes that can introduce things into you. I mean, of course, there are some of those, like the kissing bug, which is like an assassin bug that can, bite you on your lips or in your face when you're sleeping and give you Chagas disease. And that's kind of scary. That can be fatal. So now I don't know what to say on that question.
Well, I don't like bugs. I don't like any bugs. So
I'm not really necessarily like scared of them, but the prospect of if they were to come near my house, bed bugs kind of freak me out. Like would not want
Just
an
the hassle.
infestation. Yeah, the hassle and knowing that they're fairly difficult to get rid of and pervasive. I just would not want to deal with those.
I would bet money that there is very few people in the pest control industry who don't thoroughly check their hotel room before they actually stay in the hotel room for bed bugs because they don't want to take them home with them, right?
I'm guilty on that one. My wife and I travel a lot, and every single time, she knows the drill now. If we've done it so many times, like, don't put the bag on the bed.
Put them on the table and
just hang out there by the hallway, and I get out the flashlight, and I check the bed thoroughly. And we have found them once in a room and got moved. And so that, I think...
were they obvious or just kind of found some?
It was not obvious. And, well, I didn't see any active ones, but I found, old droppings and cast skins. And, so they could have been there last week. They could have been there a year ago, and they just never cleaned it. So who knows? But it was enough for me to say, I'm going to need a different room.
Yeah, funny about that is there was a couple years ago, there was, Paul Bello. He was here for actually to teach. He's a kind of real famous like entomologist teacher. He was here to teach a conference on bed bugs, and the hotel he was in, he was like, he woke up at night and there was a bed bug crawling across him, and he had bed bugs at his hotel here, and he went down and told the staff, and I guess he didn't want to get them in trouble. He's like, you don't mind if I do like a little like bring some people in here and show them how to do bed bugs, and it just happened to be his room happened to have bed bugs, and I don't think I'd be that happy about it. he was excited about it.
Annoyed.
Yeah, I wouldn't want that. But.
I've seen videos of research entomologists with, they'll just put like their hand into like a jar of bed bugs and just watch them start feeding on there, and that gives me the shivers. I'm not down with that.
Another question here, and we get this pretty much every day in the office, is they're getting little black ants in our kitchen. Is there any way to prevent this from happening?
There's some things you can do, like make sure that you're kind of cleaning up after yourself to reduce the likelihood that the single foraging ant is going to find some food, right, and then bring her sisters back to start munching. So kind of keeping keep spills clean and tight lids on jars of things that the ants might want to eat, sugary stuff. And then on the outside, just where we see a lot of ants are like when people leave a bunch of leaves up against the side of the house and things like that, harborage for ants. But honestly, it's Albuquerque. If you've not yet had ants in your house in Albuquerque, then you're part of the rare exception. So, as far as prevention, I don't think there's a lot you can do. Just understanding them, clean up. You can spray down a trail of ants with Windex or something else that's safe to use in the kitchen, and that works pretty well in the short term until you get somebody out to take care of the ants on the outside.
Yeah, I think the best thing, if you're trying to do it yourself, prevent it, is maybe just move stuff away from your house, like outside, like the wheat. Just kind of be mindful what kind of plants you have around your house or kind of mulch coverage you have, or whatever. Maybe that might not even help it, but
I think a moat.
Yeah,
would be the best prevention.
Yeah, probably.
but there are some that definitely do attract them, right? We've got like if you've got those trumpet vines, things like that. Things
cut bushes back from your house.
Yep.
Also, if you've got some plants that are infested with aphids, they're going to secrete some this sweet stuff that will feed the ants. They have a little bit of a symbiotic relationship there, and definitely attract ants to the house. So a few things you can do, but yeah, for the most part, being here in Albuquerque, the ants just love us here. They were here before we were here. They'll be here when we're gone for sure. So we just deal with them a lot.
Yeah, I think that. Yeah, it's definitely something we're dealing with every single day.
So this is an interesting question. Why don't I see houses with tents on them like in Breaking Bad?
I don't know. Maybe we have a better control on the meth cooking. I don't know. Well, those tents you see are for drywood termites generally.
Right.
And we're here in the high desert. That's not a big termite issue. Like you see that in California or maybe out in the southeastern United States. That's much more prevalent. Here we have the subterranean termites that you treat by putting liquid insecticide into the ground, and that's how you get rid of them. So there's really not a need. We just don't have enough of the drywood termites. I'm sure there are houses in Albuquerque that have been tented, probably down in Corrales, in the valley, where it'd be more predominant. But because it's so arid here, it's just not a significant issue. There needs to be a minimum ambient moisture level inside the timber. We're talking about wood that's up off the ground, and so generally that relies on humidity, which thankfully some people hate the dryness here. I love it, and that's one of the reasons.
Yeah, I've run into a few instances where tenting a house would be beneficial here in Albuquerque, but the fact that it just doesn't happen very often and there's not a company that's really set up and ready to go to do it, then by bringing in all the equipment and the expertise and the products and stuff, all of a sudden it becomes pretty cost prohibitive.
It's super expensive
to do that when there's not somebody here doing that on the regular.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's expensive, and it's expensive because it's dangerous too. Like the materials are highly toxic to people, so they have to make sure there are a lot of you have to have the licenses. You have to make sure that things are in place. People who are trained to do it. So it's not like just getting a can of insecticide and spraying it somewhere. Like it's deadly gas.
Yeah, it was an interesting plot point for the
I think so
popular
too.
series.
It's clever.
Well, last episode we started joking around about would you rather. And now I think it's kind of popular demand. People want us to do some would you rathers. And so I have one for you guys.
Okay.
Let's see here. You've got 5 minutes and one tough choice to make. Get the scene. Here's to set the scene. Camping in New Mexico after monsoon season. Would you rather sleep one night in a tent with 25 scorpions, or spend 1 hour in a sealed barn with 500 Africanized bees?
So these are
I know my answer on that one, but
these like just common scorpions like we see?
well, it says
in
bark
Albuquerque?
scorpions, so
Ooh,
yeah,
yeah.
we don't have those here, but yeah.
We'll bring them just for you.
Okay, well,
Okay, they're imported from Phoenix.
yes,
From Tucson or
If it's
something.
regular scorpion, I take the scorpions. They'll kind of hide and stay away from you, I think. But
Yeah.
the bees
Okay,
are
if they're
pretty
bark
aggressive.
scorpions and they're in a tent, I would take the bees.
Yeah, there's not going to be any sleeping involved in that.
No, and
there's
if
knowledge
it's for the
of
whole night,
scorpions.
and I mean just one sting of those, and you are going to likely need to go to the hospital. Multiple of those would be oof. No, thank you. I'll take the bees and then just start frantically smashing them. See, I mean, I bet because each one of them can only sting you once, and I think 500 stings of the bees.
Oh.
So 500 stings. At worst case scenario, I think I'd rather chance that. Probably, I still go into anaphylactic shock. Probably. I don't know.
I think I'd just be cold outside the tent. I don't think.
That's not a choice.
Yeah, I didn't see that choice on there. So
What would you do?
I don't go camping. Well, I think because bark scorpions, they're not aggressive. They're not going to come attack you. I think you just kind of
That's true.
kind of just stay in your sleeping bag and away from them.
could you say the same thing about the
No,
Africanized
those
bees?
suckers
Or
are-
they're
they're
going to be
kinda
aggressive?
angry.
They're aggressive. They're going to attack
Okay.
you. I think.
Yeah.
So I think the scorpions. I think you just
Couldn't come to a truce with them or something in the barn.
Can I have like a badminton racket or something?
yeah. I don't know. I guess that's good thing we don't have to make that decision. I guess. But my kids play a lot of sports. I'm out there with them in the grass and stuff. There's a question. I guess I looked over this question, but I actually like to know this answer too. Is can you get rid of the swarms of little gnats that hover over the grass? Like a lot of baseball players right now, it's baseball season. They're dealing with that. And
Ooh, man, those stink. I mean, not literally, but like get a face full of those when you're running. Brings back horrible memories from childhood.
Right.
I don't know if you can really. There's most of the gnats that would be swarming over grass are likely going to be like fungus gnats that are, the larvae are feeding in the soil on fungus or the little tiny roots, baby roots of the plants. And I mean, they're just you can't really put down enough, you shouldn't probably put down enough insecticide across a playing field to get rid of those. I think that would be counterproductive.
yeah, they're annoying. It's just always a big cloud of them. It's different clouds.
That's just part of being outside,
Yeah.
part of being part of the world, I think, is getting a mouthful of gnats every now and then.
Part of playing baseball.
Exactly, right? Yeah, you rub some dirt on it.
I play baseball as either gnats or sand, getting blasted with sand, from the infill from the winds in the spring.
exactly.
So,
Yeah, you
Baseball in New Mexico.
yeah, seriously.
slide into second and get a mouthful of dirt.
Yeah, I just remember I used to get pelted with because wind ripping off the sand and pelting your legs, your face. I
Yep.
did that. So
Yeah.
You guys have a favorite baseball movie? Speaking of baseball.
baseball movie, probably Field of Dreams.
Okay.
Maybe that.
The Natural is always a classic in my
Natural.
Okay.
8 Men Out. Have you seen 8 Men Out? That's an old baseball movie, but Chicago Black Sox, I guess,
Yeah.
or the White Sox, I guess they call the
And of the age, my brothers and I grew up, watching VHS movies, and Major League was one that was on steady rotation.
Right.
And
Sandlot, man.
Yeah, I think this would be the Sandlot for me. Probably, I didn't play a ton of baseball as a kid, but didn't have to know a ton of baseball for that movie to be very relatable.
Speaking of the Sandlot, last time my kids watched this movie on Amazon, it has Mel Gibson in it. I don't know what it's called. It's like Monster Summer. I think it's Monster Summer or something. And the catcher from Sandlot is the umpire, and I just thought of that right now. A umpire in that, and
nice.
he's also turns out, I don't want to spoiler alert. He turns out to be the bad guy in the movie. I fell asleep in it, so my kids told me
the ump is the bad guy in most baseball movies.
yeah, but it wasn't a baseball movie. It was just a baseball. And but he was the ump from the Sandlot, the redheaded chubby kid, I guess, right? So
Speaking of Mel Gibson movies, I think that maybe Signs would count. That
Oh, yeah.
Shyamalan
Swing
because
Away.
Swing Away.
Swing Away. All right, I forgot about that.
Nice.
But yeah, Major League is the one. It was like,
Bad News Bears was fun, and then there was I think Billy the old one, and it was a Billy Bob Thornton. I think they remade a new one, like probably in the early 2000s.
I don't think he can top the drunken ennui of Walter Matthau
Yeah.
in that movie.
And Keanu Reeves is in one, right? Where he was like a bunch of kids in the ghetto as a baseball. He had to be cool. He got like court ordered to go coach a bunch of baseball kids in the ghetto. I can't remember the name of it, but it was a pretty good little movie. I remember, right? So if I remember,
That sounds like Mighty Ducks.
it was a little more serious. Yeah. If we want to talk about hockey movies, I got some funny ones.
It begins and ends with Slapshot, as far as I'm concerned.
Well, we're gonna wrap things up today with we got a joke of the month for today.
Oh, right.
Why don't ants ever get sick?
Why?
Because they have tiny antibodies.
I would say
be
4
here
on
all-
punchline, 9 on delivery.
Good enough for me. Thank you. We'll see you next time on What's Bugging You.